The feminine, with the masculine and feminine dance of birth. Well, straight out the gate, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. There's a lot of pressure, certainly today, for men to be present for birth. It's not always been that way. It was uncommon for men to be in the birth room, to be witnessing their child born. But there's a masculine and feminine dance of birth. Historically, men have had a big influence on birth. We could go back to, I think it was Louis IV, who wanted to see one of the women in his life give birth, and he hid behind a screen apparently, and she had to be on her back in order for him to see adequately. Or we could go forward in time, quite a lot forward in time, to the Chamberlain brothers and the advent of the forceps, where in order to get a really good operation, they had to have women in certain positions, otherwise they couldn't do it. In fact, even to this day, women get into the lithotomy position on stirrups, which has got nothing to do with it facilitating the birth of the baby. Really, in terms of the pelvis, the attitude of the pelvis is changed in such a way that the diameter is reduced. So it's all to do with the operator having an easier way to do often his work. So early in the 1970s, according to Michel Odent, we saw men, partners, husbands, boyfriends, partners coming into the birth room to support women. And he speaks about that as a response to the social and larger changes around the industrialization of birth. Birth moves to big hospitals. The family becomes smaller. The idea of an extended family was reducing. So Michel Odent, and we'll see him later in the video, speaks about that demand, as he puts it. He says he can understand it. Well, I can too. So a woman wanted her lover, her most significant other, to be with her. And that kind of makes sense in one way. It makes sense because the thirst that she has for someone who she can connect with, someone who she knows and loves that she can connect with, makes total sense, certainly in the context of oxytocin release. So, it wasn't until the mid-70s that a man was permitted to be a midwife in the UK. The law changed around about then. And when I trained as a midwife back in 1994, I qualified. I think out of about 37,000 midwives, 61 were men. And as I do this video now today, I think it's about 39,000 midwives. There's about 91 men, probably over 100 now, but certainly not men. But it wasn't even legal in the mid-70s. So where are we now? Currently, 95% of fathers are present for the birth of their baby. So that's where we're at. Men now are present for the birth of their baby. I think it's important, and I said it right at the offset, that if you don't want to be there, don't be there. Have that conversation. Make it clear how you feel about it. Be open. Be straightforward, because there's something going on in the masculine and feminine dance of birth that requires you to be there through choice if you're going to be there. There's something going on that has a massive impact on the hormone responsible for great birth, oxytocin, being present in abundance in her. Now, she needs to have an experience of you being there, not lost in your thinking about oxytocin or episiotomy or skin to skin. And it's very easy for a man to get lost in all that detail. And now I'm the first one to say to you that you really should engage with the detail. Any question that she is wrangling with, you need to know about it. You need to understand it. You need to have an opinion on it. You need to listen. It's the hardest thing for us to do, and it's the easiest win when it comes to boosting oxytocin in her. having someone to listen to her is like it primes the oxytocin pump. Now, in America, I heard recently they have more therapists than doctors and nurses put together. They have a multi-billion-pound industry of counselling, and around about 70% of that dollar is being spent by women. So, our problem, right, is that we thrive on testosterone. We thrive on and testosterone relieves our stress. We like to have a problem to fix. We like to have something to sort out. And when we're listening, we're working out how to solve it. You know, if we're not thinking, well, why are you worried about that? You know what I mean? I heard the other day that there have been some studies that suggest that when a woman is experiencing extensive stress, there's 8 times more blood flow to parts of the brain than there is to a masculine, to a man's brain. And have you ever heard that conversation? You know, a woman's talking to her partner about the problems that she's experiencing, and he's thinking, well, that's no big deal. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Well, inside her physiological experience, it is a big deal. So there's nothing more important than you being in the birth room through choice.